Hi everyone, thanks for joining us on our very first video for Arrakis Consulting and the beginning of the various and numerous topics we plan on discussing. So get yourself a cup of coffee, a glass of water, a beer, whatever, relax and just enjoy what we're going to talk about. We definitely appreciate the time that you are spending to watch our videos and everything we plan on talking about to help you and your company and probably other cybersecurity or IT companies. So why are we doing this and what are we going to do? Well, first off, we plan to provide basic videos that help companies or people understand a little bit more about cybersecurity, compliance, privacy, governance, and some other areas like technology, and how these different factors or different areas, how they can or should work together. And more importantly, if you don't do something, what's the risk? If you do something, well, what's the risk? And we intend to do this because we want to make sure that the end user understands a little bit more about what these different areas are, the different factors and everything else that's going on, because it's kind of critical in today's world to understand that. People say they're secure, but then they don't understand what security is. They say their information or their customers' information is protected and private and everything else, but then they don't understand how to protect it or keep it private. So we want to help the end user understand these things a little bit more, but we also want cybersecurity companies or other IT companies or MSPs to understand it also, to understand that when they offer a solution to a customer that the company knows what they're getting into, or the potential risks that they could be facing by being less than accurate in how they explained it. We also want smaller companies to understand how different technologies work, how they can interact with other technologies, what it takes to support technologies, or maybe a platform of some sort, what the risk is in implementing technology or not implementing it, and so on. We also want to make sure companies and individuals understand the risk in relation to doing things or not doing things. And if you did implement technology or did something, what's the risk of doing that versus what's the risk of not doing it? And if you did do it, then what downstream risks could possibly occur? And these risks could be anything from legal troubles or increased budgets with no real revenue stream, or maybe you have something in place but you don't have the ability to support it, and so on. We don't want companies to feel like they have to implement something but then not understand how to implement it. And we call that shelfware. When you buy something and you end up never using it, it just sits there. We want to help companies in the areas of audit or regulation, help reduce some confusion about audit or regulation and what it takes to become compliant so you don't get in trouble. Reduce your chances of getting sanctions or fines or civil or criminal charges, things like that. We also want to show potential loopholes in regulatory environments that could be exploited. And we also want to discuss the risks for exploiting loopholes. In some cases, a company might choose to take advantage of a loophole, and then in other cases, maybe not. It all depends on the company and the situation at hand. If there's a privacy-related issue, or we're going to talk about a privacy regulation like GDPR or HIPAA or CCPA or something like that, we're going to want to explain some of the privacy issues that could happen. And we also want to discuss the concept that you can have security without privacy, but you can't have privacy without security. So you got to have a foundational security plan in order to accurately and adequately protect your privacy-related environments. We're going to talk about all sorts of frameworks, whether they be privacy or security frameworks. So ISO 27001, GDPR, NIST, like 853, 800-171, HIPAA, CMMC, could be pretty much anything else. We'll talk about it in some form or fashion. And if you guys have a framework you'd like for us to talk about, then let us know. We'll talk about that. We'll have a webinar on that one. We're also going to talk about technologies and technology concepts where, for example, like DLP, data loss protection, vulnerability assessments, penetration testing, business continuity, disaster recovery, encryption, business impact analysis or assessments, and privacy impact assessments, things like that. We'll talk about critical roles in relation to security and privacy, and how if you have them, it could be a requirement to have them, and the fact that you don't have the money to hire somebody or outsource it is not really an excuse, and you could be facing significant fines. In relation to privacy, GDPR is at the top of the list, so that'll certainly be one that we talk about. And in addition to everything else and all the other things that I haven't mentioned that we will be discussing, we'll talk about the foundational material for any company in relation to security and privacy, specifically policies, standards, and procedures. We'll talk about how if you don't have the foundational material, but you do have technology in place, how that's not really a good thing. We'll talk about the downsides of saying you're going to do something but then not doing it. Or we'll talk about how you may have policy standard procedures that say you'll do something and you're actually doing it, but you have no way of proving it, which is just as bad as not doing it. So our webinars, just so we're not going to dig too deep in the weeds in the beginning. Webinars designed to be basic to start with, high level, just to give everybody an understanding. And the whole purpose behind that is simply so we can get in the weeds at a later webinar. We don't want to get too far in the weeds in the beginning. We want to give people the ability to grow over time with the concepts that we'll be talking about and understand over time how they can all work together. We certainly don't want to get into the weeds right in the get-go from certain areas of compliance or regulatory environments. I mean, talking about GDPR alone, that's a numerous multi-webinar environment that we don't really want to do at any one time. So the idea is a tiered or staged, getting more and more detailed, more and more intense in relation to the topics. Having said that, topics may not be in the same order. So we may talk about something on this week, and then the next week we'll talk about something else, and then the third week we might talk a little bit more about what we talked about 2 weeks earlier, just to expand it. We want to give people the option of jumping around our webinars so they can narrow down on any one particular area, or just focus on one particular area if they want. If we're going to refer to a previous webinar, obviously we'll let you know. The duration of the webinars, we're not planning on them to be more than 1 hour long at any point in time. If we have to cut them short, that's fine, but we're not planning on having these things 3 or 4 hours long. That's not the intention at all. We don't want to put people to sleep or feel like they have to dedicate 4 hours of their life watching or listening to us. But at some point, we do intend to cover as much as we can. So a person, a client, a company, or an MSP, or anything like that, will have the ability to piece it all together at their leisure to figure out how they want to, understand it. There will be other people doing these webinars. I'm just kicking it off. Other Arrakis personnel. Most of our people are in excess of 25 years of experience, held C-level positions, managed hundreds and thousands of people, multi-billion-dollar budgets, things like that, and with a vast experience in their particular skill set. So as the conversation turns, you'll see different people coming on board. We also intend to eventually at some point bring in maybe current customers of ours that want to contribute. How did they vet a cybersecurity company? How did they find a cybersecurity company? What was their needs? How did all of this come to be? Did you have any concerns? What are the contractual requirements you expect from a cybersecurity company? Things like that. Currently, we don't have anybody in mind that is we're going to do that just yet, but we want to cover all aspects of cybersecurity, from the professional side, professional consultation side, all the way down to the end user who has to live with it, essentially. So I'm going to wrap up this first intro video. Thank you again for your time. If we'd like for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, share the word or spread the word, share the knowledge, things like that. Check out our website. And if you're interested in Arrakis Consulting helping you, if you have problems or whatever, then feel free to reach out to sales@arrakisconsulting.com, and we'll see what we can do to help you out with that. And with that, I thank every single one of you for spending the few short minutes with me, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the future.